Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my full review of the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 after 250 miles. So before we get into my thoughts and opinions on the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2, I'd like to run through some quick disclaimers. I bought these shoes with my own money. They were not sent for review by anyone and I'm not being paid to make this video. Now that's out of the way, let's move on to my thoughts and opinions on the Turbo 2. So first we're going to be discussing what role the Turbo 2 played in my training. When I bought these shoes, I expected to only use them for speed work, but they actually surprised me on various different types of runs. Surprisingly, I found that they were very comfortable and forgiving on those easy runs, but they were still able to provide the propulsion that they're meant for on those speed work. They're definitely a light shoe, and I feel like this definitely helped on my easy run. The easy runs have definitely been the bulk of that 250 miles. So I've seen a lot of people using the Turbo 2s for long runs, and I'd say that on the one long run that I took them on, they were definitely a decent option, but I feel like I had better options that provide me with more support and stability through the upper. When pushing the pace, they felt light and nimble, and I feel that really helped me on my speed work and interval work. So in conclusion, I mainly use the shoe for easy runs and speed work during my 250 miles. And I think for the remainder of my time in the Turbo 2s, it's going to be mainly easy runs and speed work. So before we get into my thoughts on the upper, midsole and outsole, I'm just going to quickly run through the specs. So for a men's size 9 in the US or size 8 in the UK, it weighs 7.2 ounces. And for a woman's size 8 in the US or size 7 in the UK, it weighs 5.6 ounces. So this is a neutral shoe from Nike, and Running Warehouse say that this shoe is made for road running and also fits true to size. In terms of stack height, we've got a 10mm drop from 28mm in the heel to 18mm in the forefoot. So now we'll move into my thoughts on the upper of the shoe. So we've got an engineered mesh here from Nike. This upper is very breathable, very lightweight, and I have to say it definitely looks good as well. I have to say there's a very wide toe box in the shoe and quite a narrow midfoot. But for someone that has narrow feet, I didn't even find this an issue. I felt the lockdown was really good. In the heel here, we haven't got much padding whatsoever. There's a tiny bit of padding around the outside, but that's all really. In terms of the lacing system, I found no issues. However, towards the back of the shoe, I did find there was a little bit of slippage in the heel. It wasn't anything major, but it did irritate me slightly on some runs. I ended up switching to the runner's knot, and that solved the problem perfectly for me. I think the slight heel slippage may have been down to the lack of padding in the heel area. There really isn't much padding whatsoever around the heel, or even the tongue for that matter. But then again, despite this lack of padding, the shoe still felt really comfortable around my heel, so I can't really fault Nike for that. I think it was definitely a bad decision choosing a white upper. As you can see, most of the shoes basically turn brown by now. Yeah, I definitely won't be choosing white in the future. But again, I can't really mark Nike down for that, that was my poor judgment. In terms of durability, the upper looks pretty good at this point. Some of the areas around here are a bit more fuzzy than others, but there's no ripping or tearing at any points in the shoe. The only slight fault I can find with the shoe is that there was a tiny bit of heel slippage. So for the upper, to round it up, we're going to give a 9 out of 10 rating. So for the midsole, we've got an interesting formation from Nike, a partnership that we've recently seen in the Nike Tempo Next Percent. We've got Nike's top end foams working together in a shoe, Nike React and Nike Zoom X foam. Some people have questioned their partnership in the Nike Tempo Next Percent, but most people have found that they work together very smoothly in the Turbo 2. To be honest, I definitely agree with that. The midsole felt great on all types of runs. So Zoom X is Nike's top-end racing foam. So that's the part of the shoe that will most definitely add the speed and the power and the propulsiveness when you're looking to carry out that speed work. At the other end of the spectrum, the React foam is meant to gruel out your daily miles and get you through your training with a considerable amount of durability. I feel that the partnership of the React and the Zoom X foam definitely helped the shoe with a considerable amount of versatility. So after 250 miles, there's a considerable amount of creasing in mainly the Zoom X foam. I think, to be fair to Nike, when you got a top end foam, creasing is definitely expected after 250 miles. And not to mention the fact that this creasing has definitely not affected the responsiveness of the Zoom X foam. It still feels great when pushing the pace, and definitely still forgiving enough on those easier runs. But there is a slight problem that I wouldn't expect to see after 250 miles. So unfortunately, I've had a decent amount of splitting in between the React and Zoom X foam. I was quite disappointed when it started happening, and I questioned whether it would be okay to keep running on. But in the end, it's been alright. I've stuck some glue in there, and it's gone relatively back to shape, which is good, and I think I can carry on in this shoe for at least another 50 miles. So I think Nike had a great idea when partnering up React foam and Zoom X foam, but the durability issues are definitely something that they need to work on. So for Nike, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 to the midsole rating. So now moving on to our third category, outsole. So as you can see here, Nike have put on a full-length outsole covering all the way from the heel to the toe. I think this was definitely a good decision from Nike because they're adding a little bit more durability to a not so durable midsole. So in here, it's almost like you've got these miniature lugs. They're really short and they don't stick out at all. And I don't think that Nike have added too much weight with this outsole, considering how light the shoe is. And surprisingly, I'm seeing very little wear on this outsole. It's definitely a very durable material that Nike have chosen, and I'm really happy with how it's doing so far. I've definitely got enough traction and grip when I'm going around corners on a wet road. I haven't had any slipping or anything along those lines. So to be honest, the outsole's been relatively close to perfect. I can't think of anything to fault Nike with the outsole, so I'm going to have to give them a 10 out of 10 rating. A very good way to bring it back after a pretty average midsole. So now we're going to move on to the fourth and final category, value. So the Turbo 2 comes in at £160 here in the UK, and probably something around $180 in the US. Considering you're getting Nike's top end foams working together in a shoe, I think this is a pretty fair price. Also taking into consideration that I think this shoe could last in excess of 300 miles. So £160 definitely isn't out of this world. I think they could have probably lowered it to around £140, but overall it's a decent price, so I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 rating. So the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 has scored a nice 33 out of 40 for our full review. Obviously we haven't done a full review on any other shoes yet, so we can't compare this to any other shoes, but it'll be interesting to see where they rank up against other shoes in the future. If you did go on to enjoy this video, please consider giving it a like and even hitting that subscribe button down below. Please leave any suggestions in the comments of what content you enjoy the most and what you'd like to see from us in the future. Thanks for watching, see you next time.